Alright, today we're going to do some more letters that start with a short upswing. Just a reminder, the short upswing starts at the baseline and curves up to the midline. So now we've got the letter J, P, Y, V, and W. And I know I made that P wrong, guys. Forgive me. Alright, the first letter, J. We've got the upswing. We pull our line straight down below the baseline. We curve to the left, just like a print J. We come up and cross the way we did for the G and the Q, and then end with a short upswing. And we put our dot on the end after we finished all of our entire word. So once again, upswing, pull your line straight down below the baseline, curve over to 8, cross at the baseline, and end with a short upswing. And this is what that looks like all together. And we're going to do our dots after we finish all of them. So upswing, pull straight down below the baseline, curve to the left around to 8, cross at the midline, and end with a small upswing. Got our upswing to the midline, pull your line straight down below the baseline, curve to the left over to 8 on the clock, cross at the baseline, and end with a small upswing. Go slowly so you can make sure you get it right. Take your time. When you're finished, put your dots on all of your J's. Okay. I think this one got a little tall. I really like this one. I really like the one before it too. Okay. The next letter is P. It starts the same way the J does, with a short upswing and then pulling a line below the baseline. Then our next step, when we're here, we are going to trace back up to the top of the P. Once we're here at 10, we're going to come around to 2, back to 8, and we're going to trace back out to connect to the next letter. At the beginning, we put an upswing on a P basically. And then when we're here, we have to trace back around from 8 to 4 and end with a short upswing. So if you were writing the word pie, you would need to be over here to write the next letter. Once you close up your P, make sure you trace back around over to 4 on the clock and end with your small upswing. And make sure you're tracing and not, where's my paper with my bad examples? We don't want to see this. Okay, that's not it. We don't want to do this. That line needs to trace along the bottom of the letter P. So upswing to the midpoint, straight down below the baseline, trace all the way back up, almost to the top of your line, curve around from 10 to 2 to 4 to 8, trace back from 8 to 4, and end with a small upswing. Once more. Upswing to the midpoint, pull a line straight down below the baseline, trace back up from 10 to 2 to 4 to 8, trace back from 8 to 4, and end with a short upswing. I think this one's definitely my worst one. I think I like this one the best. Alright, the next letter is Y, and like the P, it's very similar to the print one. You just have to start it with that upswing, just like if we added an upswing to the beginning of that letter. So from the baseline, we're going to swing up to the midline, trace back down, curve from 8 to 4, pull up to the midline, and we're going to go straight down below the baseline, curve to the left, come up straight and cross at the baseline and end with a small upswing. Try to avoid or stay away from doing this. We want to make sure we're tracing this line, that we're keeping it tight and together. No little spaces for critters to come and live inside of your letters. All right, upswing to the midline, trace down. Upswing to the midline, trace down all the way down, cross at the baseline, and end with a small upswing. Upswing to the midline, trace down. Upswing to the midline, trace down all the way below the baseline, curve around to the left, cross at the baseline, end with a small upswing. Upswing to the midline, trace down. Upswing to the midline, trace down, pull down way below the baseline, curve around to the left, and cross at the baseline, end with a small upswing. Keep practicing those Ys. We're going to go on to V when you're ready. Our cursive letters are round. We don't have a lot of pointy parts in our cursive letters. So the V is going to begin with an upswing and pull straight back down, and then it's going to curve in the same way that the Y curved in the U. So upswing, trace down, just like before, curve from 8 to 4, and go back up to the baseline, up to the midline, and then we're going to end with a dip. Okay? The only difference between a U and a V is that dip. Here's a U, here's a V. Okay? And when we do that dip, I didn't do a very good one there. We're going to try to come back a little bit towards, like that. Okay? We're going to try to curve this up and in a little bit. So up to the midline, trace down, curve, and we're not going to go straight up to the midline. We're going to curve in just a little bit and then do that dip. See, it kind of looks like a milk glass or something, like you could fill it up with a drink. So this is our letter V. It ends with a dip. Upswing to the midline, pull straight back down, curve around. And at the midline, we're going to have our dip to connect to the next letter. Okay? A W is what would happen if the U and the V got smashed together. A W in cursive has this U. If we stopped here, this is a U. But then we come up and add the V. So we're going to start at the baseline and do an upswing to the midpoint, trace down. Upswing to the midpoint, trace down. And then we're going to do another upswing to the midpoint, but it's going to kind of curve in, and we're going to end with a dip. And that is how you make a W. Upswing to the midpoint and down. Upswing to the midpoint and down. Upswing to the midpoint that kind of comes in a little bit, and dip. Kind of feels like teaching you a dance move. Upswing to the midpoint and down. Upswing to the midpoint and down. Upswing that kind of comes in a little bit, and dip. And that is your W. Your words with these letters and some of the letters that you've already learned are wipe, view, and piers. A pier like you fish on. This would be more than one of them. So wipe. Got our W that we just learned. Now, we need to make an I, and we know that I starts at the baseline, right? So this time, we are going to pretend like we are already up in the air. And we're going to finish going up to the midpoint and go straight down. That's a lesson that we're going to learn soon, and I think I put that one in here on accident. Then we've got our P and an E. So you're going to learn that it's okay to leave off the beginning of this I because this letter stops at the midpoint. I, silent E. Okay? Keep practicing that one and just pause the video and we'll start on the next word when you're ready. Alright, the next word is view. V-I-E-W. The first letter V, make sure that it ends with a dip at the midpoint. I, just like in wipe, we're going to just go up a little bit and come down. E, W. W ends with a dip as well. And then we dot our I after we finish the entire word. V, I, E, W. Take your time. This is very hard for some people, and that's okay. Slow is steady and steady is fast. Okay, whenever you're ready, we'll go on to peers. E, I, E, Z. Peers. I'm going to work on making all my letters the same height. If you have a dry erase board, practicing this on a dry erase board is sometimes helpful because that marker slides so easily. But keep it up, take your time, don't let it get frustrating.